Are you a busy woman who prioritizes everyone else's health above your own? Do you have questions about your diet, exercise, or how to prevent or treat certain health conditions? Are you always Googling health questions that you forget to ask or are embarrassed to ask your primary care physician? Girl, do you even have a primary care physician? Well, welcome to Headed to Healthier. I'm Dr. Brittney Anderson, a board-certified family medicine physician, and every day in my private practice, I have discussions with women just like you who are doing their best to juggle the demands of life while also desiring to become healthier. Inside this podcast, you'll find practical and actionable health tips that you can incorporate into your daily life. You'll get expert advice and insight from some of my awesome healthcare colleagues, and you'll hear relatable conversations with incredible women just like you who have made their health a priority and are thriving because of it. So throw on your sneakers and get some steps in while you listen. Or if you're driving, get those hands at 10 and 2 and let's dig in. We are headed to healthier. Hey friends, welcome back to Headed to Healthier. We are talking about something that's been coming up really often in clinic with some of my female patients that I've seen, and it's also come up on some previous podcast episodes. And so I'm excited to talk about one of the most important nutrients for women, especially as we age, and that is protein. You may already know that protein helps with building muscle, but did you know that having enough protein also impacts your energy, your metabolism, your bones, and even affects how full you feel after meals? In this episode, let's break down why protein is important, especially as we age, how much protein we actually need in a day, and then let's review some simple but really realistic ways that we can fit protein into our meals and our snacks. So if you've ever thought, am I really getting enough protein? This episode is for you. So let's start with the why. Protein is made up of amino acids. You may remember learning that in school. If not, it's okay. Amino acids are the building blocks that our body uses for literally just about everything. Important for repairing muscles, for keeping our immune system strong, even for making hormones and enzymes that are so important for our body's functioning. Now, as we age, especially as we get beyond 40, our bodies naturally start to lose muscle mass. There's a name for this. It's called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia means loss of muscle mass. And if we don't intentionally protect that muscle with strength training and protein, it can lead to weakness, slower metabolism, and even more difficulty keeping weight off. So if you remember in a previous episode that I did with Dr. Shawn Johnson, she's an orthopedic surgeon, and she talks so much about the importance of, as we age, not just getting that cardio in, not just getting the running in, but making sure that we're working to build muscle mass. But strength training alone isn't enough. Adding protein to it is so important to account for this sarcopenia. Now add to that the hormonal changes of perimenopause and menopause, and protein becomes even more important. We know that estrogen decline really affects muscle and bone health, and getting enough protein in through your diet can really help with both of those. Another reason that protein is so important is satiety. So satiety is that feeling of being full, and protein helps you feel full. If you've noticed that you are hungrier or that cravings hit harder than they used to, a protein-rich meal, especially a good protein-rich breakfast or even a protein-heavy snack, can make a huge difference to make you not feel so hungry, or if you're like me, hangry as you go through the day. So keep in mind that protein isn't just for athletes, it's not just for bodybuilders. It really is a foundation for healthy aging. And honestly, it's a foundation for feeling strong and feeling capable in your own body. And that's our goal. So let's talk a little bit about how much protein we need, especially as we age. That is a question that I get asked so often in clinic. In one of my recent podcast episodes, Dr. Babalola gave us the recommended dietary allowance, but then she also gave us her recommendation. And both of those things are true. And I want to explain why both of those things are true. So the recommended dietary allowance is that we should have 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of our body weight. So if we were to break that down, that's about 0.36 grams of protein for every pound that we weigh. But here's the catch to that. That number, that recommended dietary allowance, really is the number or the amount of protein. It is the minimum amount that is needed to prevent deficiency, not necessarily the amount needed for optimal health. So research shows that women especially, and especially women over 40, tend to do better if we're getting in 2 grams of protein per kilogram. I know many of us are thinking more about pounds instead of kilograms. So if we put that into pounds, then that is roughly 0.5 to 0.6 grams per pound. So let's do some quick math. Let's think of it this way. For each pound that you weigh, you need to be taking in half of that amount of protein. So what Dr. Babalola said in that recent podcast with her was that she recommends most women get between 80 to 100 grams of protein. And that's spot on. So again, to do some math, so I weigh 160 pounds. I actually weigh a little bit more than 160 pounds, but it's my podcast, so we're going to say 160. So I weigh 160 pounds. I need 0.5 grams of protein for every pound. So every pound that I weigh, I need a half a gram of protein. So if I, in my head, am 160 pounds, then half of 160 is 80. So I need to be getting in 80 grams of protein in a day. Now, if you are someone who is really active, who's lifting weights, or who is recovering from an illness or an injury of some type, you may need a little bit more than that half a gram per pound. But again, just like Dr. Babalola told us in that recent episode, around 80 to 100 grams is right for most people. So if you are 180 pounds, half of that then is 90. So about 90 grams of protein you need in a day. If you're 140 pounds, half of that is 70. So about 70 grams of protein you need in a day. And to put that into perspective, most women, especially women that I talk to in my clinic, when we sit down and look at what they're eating through the day, most women are getting around 40 to 50 grams a day. So if you feel like you're falling short of the amount of grams that you need in a day, don't worry, you're not alone. Several women are, but the good news is that once you start paying attention, it really is pretty doable to hit that 80 to 100 grams of protein in a day range. You may be saying at this point, well, how do I get that much protein in a day? I think I'm eating fine, or I don't even know how to get more protein than I'm already getting. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. The easiest strategy to get 80 to 100 grams of protein in a day really is to spread that out across the day. So think about getting 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal, and then getting maybe another 10 to 20 grams with your snacks. So here's some ideas. And if you've got a pen and paper, you can write these down. If not, come back to this episode later and you can re-listen. Or if you haven't already, make sure that you join our Facebook group. I'm going to be posting all week some tips of ways that you can get more protein in your diet. But here's some ideas for breakfast. So thinking of how you can get a good protein-filled breakfast. Think about 2 eggs with a side of Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt itself, a serving of it, has anywhere between 12 to 15 grams of protein in it. Eggs, of course, are a great source of protein, so you could do that. Or you could do a smoothie. Now, I don't love smoothies all the time. I want you putting your food in your mouth and chewing it up more often than not. But if you're not getting more than one smoothie in a day, I think that's okay. So you could do a smoothie for breakfast that has some protein powder in it, that has some milk in it, and that has berries. And so you're getting a good protein source there for breakfast. And to do me the favor, chew something up with that smoothie that you're drinking for breakfast as well. So those are some breakfast ideas of how you can get a good amount of protein in. And then for lunch, good protein sources for lunch, doing chicken. Chicken breast is a great way to get protein in. Or doing turkey, and you can do that cut up on a salad. So boom, there's your high protein source. You can do a tuna salad sandwich. Tuna is a great source of protein. Or if you prefer plant-based, you can do quinoa with beans. Snacks that you can have if you get hungry, need something through the day. Edamame is a good source of protein. You can pop it in the microwave, put just a very little bit of salt on it if you need to, and edamame becomes a good protein-rich snack for you. roasted chickpeas, cottage cheese, or even just string cheese with fruit is a good way to get protein. Now, I know what you may be thinking because I hear this all through the day from my female and male patients, and that is, what about protein bars? And I will tell you to be careful. Make sure that you're looking at the sugar content. So we often get locked into thinking, I need this protein, the protein is good, but we don't realize that in some of those bars that are available, they pack a pretty good punch of sugar. So just making sure that if you're going to do protein bars, that you do ones that are not super heavy in sugar. So we covered breakfast, lunch, snacks, so dinner. So thinking about ways that you can get protein in for dinner. Think about salmon as a protein source, or doing a stir fry. In that stir fry, you can do shrimp, or you can do lean beef. You could do tofu with veggies. So all ways that you can get good protein in while also getting veggies that you need. And it's fine to add a little bit of carbs to that as well. If you're busy, and I know that so many of us are, here's some shortcuts, and these are my shortcuts and things that I do. One, you can keep boiled eggs in the fridge. Now, you don't want to be eating boiled eggs 2 weeks later, but twice through the week. So let's say on Sunday you boil eggs and you boil extra. Then you've got eggs for breakfast for Monday morning and Tuesday morning. Then say on Wednesday you boil eggs again. Then you've got some for Thursday morning and Friday morning. So that's one way that I like to make sure that I've got something there available for me if I need a quick breakfast and I don't have to stop and prepare something in the morning. You can also, if you're like me, because I do this too, instead of having to cook chicken so frequently, buy a rotisserie chicken. Think about like your big stores like Costco may have chickens that are already there and cooked. You can do that and shred it, and you can put it in salads or you can put it in wraps. If you like tuna, stocking canned tuna is another way that you can get good protein in and not take you a ton of time away from you. And if you like lentils or beans, trying pre-cooked lentils or beans also will save you some time. I always remind my patients, getting extra protein in doesn't have to be fancy. It really is just about finding those protein sources that you enjoy and making sure that they're easy for you to grab so that you're not thinking, oh, I know I should be getting more protein, but it's so much easier to eat this thing that's already there and available in my fridge. So putting that into action, if we think about what a day could look like with you getting 90 to 100 grams of protein. So for breakfast, some Greek yogurt with berries and a little bit of granola, there's 20 grams of protein. For lunch, a grilled chicken wrap with some veggies, there's 25 grams of protein. For snack, doing a protein bar, again one that's not high in sugar, there's 12 to 15 grams of protein. And then for dinner, doing salmon with maybe some quinoa or beans and some roasted broccoli, there's 30 grams of protein. So that's around 90 grams of protein in a day without you feeling like you had to force anything. So if I can issue you a challenge for this week, it's to take one day and track your protein. Before you make any changes, take one day, track your protein just to see where you land, and then start experimenting a little bit with adding extra protein to one meal or one snack. You don't have to make this huge change at once. Make it slowly. Think about progress more than perfection, and eventually you'll get to that space where you are getting in a good amount of proteins every day. So let's recap a little bit as we wrap up. Protein is especially critical for women as we age. It helps to maintain muscle, supports metabolism and bone health, helps to keep us satisfied so we're not walking around hungry or hangry all the time, and it generally sets us up for healthier aging. Depending on your lifestyle, and of course with the recommendation of your own physician, I'm not your physician, but generally we should aim for 80 to 100 grams of protein in a day. And I think it's best to spread that out throughout meals and to use simple and realistic swaps to help us get there. I have the confidence in you that you can certainly add protein to your diet, and adding more protein in addition to getting that strength training and setting those smart health goals is certainly a way to get you on your path to healthier. If you found this episode to be helpful, please share it with a friend who may also be wondering about protein, and make sure, as I mentioned earlier, that you join our private Facebook group. I'll make sure that I link it in the show notes. Have a good day. Until next time, here's to fueling your body with what it really needs. I'll be here next week. Hey, thanks for listening in today. I hope something you heard in this episode will help you on your journey to becoming healthier. Remember, this podcast offers general health information. I am not your personal physician. If you need advice that is specific to you, be sure to consult your physician. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider sharing it with a friend and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Tune in next week for another great episode of Headed to Healthier. Until then, take care of yourself. Talk soon. Bye.